Are you awake, Mark? We're live. Try to find out what the news is besides the weather.
Besides the weather.
Yeah.
Well, the
It's a slow news day.
It's a slow news day. How dare it be?
You know, when it's a slow news day, people usually report about the weather.
Yeah, the weather is always a good
Can we bring in Dr. Dan and Lee and see if they've got some news? I will bring them in. What the heck?
What about this Tucker Carlson thing?
That'll work. We'll see if they've got some news.
Tucker Carlson's old news.
How about Kennedy running against Biden?
Who's running against Biden?
Kennedy. He announced he's running against Biden. They want to shut him down.
I thought John F.
That's
Kennedy.
a good idea.
I thought
no, it's the relative.
Senator Kennedy.
Senator Kennedy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they'll actually have debates, but I doubt it. You know.
No, a guy can't debate his way out of a paper bag.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's not going to have debates. He's just going to decline.
Yeah, you know, he announced the largest voter corruption plan ever devised in America in his debate last year, and he was right.
well, politics.
Yeah, Dan, why is that? He had the most voted for president ever, and he's not open for debates.
He wasn't even cognizant.
People be packing the halls to come see him.
News alert! The guy's 80.
No one came to when he did make appearances. No one was there. He didn't.
So why were they so eager to support and vote for him?
There's no freaking way he got that many votes. Nobody cared. Nobody liked him. Nobody cared for him. I mean, it's clearly a con, and that's why American people don't trust what happened.
Wait a minute, Dan. Let's get real. Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump in the election.
Well, no, he didn't.
He got more votes
because of the Electoral College. Hillary Clinton didn't beat Donald Trump.
No. I'm saying she beat him in terms of getting more votes.
Oh, I know, but it was only several million more. It wasn't like 30 million more. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he made it so unrealistic.
Wait a minute. We actually have a guest who dares appear, and Mark Lee isn't here, so we'll bring in the guest, Kelly Jones. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Your host with
nice
most
kind of cabinet. I really like that.
Isn't here. We're beating up on politicians, which we normally do, but
both parties.
We just beat them up all day long. They're really easy targets to beat.
It really doesn't matter which party either.
Yeah, right. We're what do they call it? We're bipartisan beat up people. We beat them up on. Doesn't matter, right? Give them a right, give them a left. Doesn't matter.
Just talking about Sleepy Joe, and how
it was
statistically impossible for him to get the number of votes that he claims he got. Statistically, it was impossible for him to get that number. So it just doesn't add up. I mean, I don't know why it doesn't add up. So it just doesn't add up.
Nick, can you introduce the guest, please?
Yeah, let's talk. The guest needs to introduce herself because Mark Lee isn't here because of technical reasons. So, Kelly, tell us a little about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
So my name is Kelly Jones. I'm a life coach and I'm an author. So the reason why I'm on the show is because I just wrote a book, which should be published on Monday. Hoping and praying. We're just going through some challenges with trying to make sure everything's edited properly. But previously, prior to this, I worked for U.S. Congressman Wiley Nickel, and I was on the Sherry Beasley campaign. I am.
I'm sorry.
I've been in politics since 1987 with Jesse Jackson and Mike Dukakis. My please forgive me. My daughter and I began the Chatham County Chapel Teen Democrats and the Chatham County Chapel Teen Republicans back in 2007. So we worked on voter registration. And my mother was a staunch Democrat, and my dad was a staunch Republican. So I hear everything that you're saying. Side.
Oh wow! Okay. So you're getting it.
It's a mixed marriage.
You know, well, you're a brave lady to actually jump into politics.
Yeah, you chose the wrong side early on. You shifted to the Republicans now.
Yeah.
Now you have a little more age and wisdom.
Well,
no,
Kelly,
no. I'm actually.
Kelly, don't
actually,
listen to him. He lives in Utah. Don't listen to him. What city do you live in?
I live in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, Raleigh.
Yeah, she's in Raleigh.
I'm familiar with Raleigh since I live in Raleigh now. I travel a lot. So,
yeah.
All right. So
I'm surrounded by Democrats, so what can I say?
No, what can you say? But sorry, there was technical difficulty going on and everything. But I'm glad that y'all brought Kelly on and have learned about Kelly and her amazing things that she's got going on, including a amazing.
I want to hear about her new books. I hate.
Yeah,
books.
that's what I was going to tell her. We're going to learn about the
Don't look at that
new
thing
book
behind
and
her.
also about her involvement with the Democratic Party. But let's learn about the new book first. So, Kelly, definitely tell us about that new and fascinating book.
Excellent. Thank you. So my new book is called Forward. It is tangible. It addresses self-awareness, self-affirmation, self-efficacy. Basically, the challenge right now is, or one of the opportunities right now is, that we have an increasing rate of mental health challenges or mental health opportunities to improve mental health. I like to use everything positive, affirmative. So what the book does is it addresses the character strengths and the communication style of individuals to help them better advocate for the things that they need, constructively advocate. So right now, there's a 60% teacher vacancy in North Carolina. And with that, of course, there's an opportunity to make sure that kids still learn and still have effective engagement in school. So that's what this book does, is it enables kids, parents, teachers, college students, whoever it may be, to learn about the strengths that an individual has. Just to give you a quick short story, is I grew up in New Jersey, and in New Jersey, I was kind of popular. I wasn't most talkative. I had lots of friends. I was social, etc. But when I came to visit my grandmother in North Carolina during the summers, I was always told that I talked too much, I was going to be in trouble, and all this other kind of stuff. So my outgoing personality was a challenge, in my grandmother's small town, Cherryville. But please forgive me, in New Jersey, it was the thing that allowed me to excel. And I, once again, piggyback on the fact that Kelly Clarkson continuously talks about her ADHD and the simple fact that music saved her life. So somebody looked at her from a positive, strengths-based they use a positive strengths-based approach to make sure that she excelled instead of using it to limit her.
Yeah.
Well, I won the Social Pariah Award when I was in high school. Yes. Okay.
Well, you wouldn't have if I'd have been in your high school.
Yeah, you would have probably beaten me. Yeah. He is even more of a social pariah than I am. We do tend to compete about that, but I'm glad you're doing that on mental health.
Nick's a good guy. What can I say?
I'm sorry, Ken, did you mention 60? Did you say 60% opening for teachers?
Yeah,
teacher vacancies in North Carolina, and right now there's, according to CDC, there's 49.5% of adolescents have experienced a mental health crises, and as far as youth are concerned, it is the number 2 cause of death. Suicide is the number 2 cause of death. North Carolina ranks 42 out of 50 states as far as mental health provisions for young adults, and on our recent report card, we received a D, a failing grade. So
wow.
For there's a need for more opportunities, more constructive opportunities to build individual strength.
Do you suppose that the Democrats stopped brainwashing kids in the public schools? That would help them not have these mental disorders?
No,
You know what?
I think it's the nature of America.
I think if we stop putting limitations on kids or trying to corner them into one specific pathway that will give them
gender. You mean gender? You mean gender?
Huh?
Pathway? Gender? That you're talking
I
about?
mean,
No.
I'm talking about pathways in general. So in other words, kind of like the do as I say instead of uncovering your strengths, your uniqueness and your strengths. And I think what happens sometimes is because
I agree with you. I'm kidding you.
We're
Kelly,
so
how much of that is coming from the breakdown of the family?
Say that again.
How much of this mental health issues in our children, which is extremely unfortunate, is coming from a breakdown of the traditional family, where so many kids are growing up without a traditional loving mother and father?
I don't know if it's a part. I don't want to talk out of my, out of my studies and my research, but what I can say is that right now, so for what I did for 3.5 years, so my dad was a financial analyst. My dad was a tobacco farmer who wound up working in Manhattan, and he believed you don't talk until you do your research, right? So what I did was I spent 3.5 years substitute teaching in Wake County, North Carolina. I taught at every single middle school and high school because I didn't want to have like a narrow perception of what the opportunities were for kids. And I wanted to find out about student readiness. And what I found is that kids are ready to learn. They are so ready to learn. I mean, every single class that I taught for 3.5 years, the kids handed in their paper, except for 2 kids. Only 2 kids did not hand in their paper at the end of the class. The thing is, are we engaging them? Are we finding the right way to build their strengths versus maybe limiting them? So if I don't understand the way you communicate, if I don't understand what motivates you, and I'm only working from my perspective and my context, I can limit you from being the best that you can be. That's what I found the challenge was. I would walk into classrooms and kids would tell me, I'm stupid and I'm going to fail, or I'm stupid and I can't do that paperwork. I'm like, wait a minute, where did you hear that? And they're like, the teacher tells me that every day. I'm like, oh no, in my class, you're going to hand in the paper. Oh my, yes, kids say that all the time, that the teachers tell them that they're stupid, they can't do anything. I went to one class. This is a story that it still gets to me. I went to one class, and there were these kids sitting around the back of the classroom, and there were these 2 young boys one young boy who was dressed meticulous, hair, clothes, just meticulous. And the teacher kept saying that he was a bad kid. And so I said, I really need you to do the work. I need you just to come up and sit where the other desks are and do the paperwork with the kids. And he said, I can't. I said, well, why can't you? He said, I don't have a pencil. I said, so you mean to tell me if I get you a pencil that you'll do the work? He said, yes. So I asked the teacher for a pencil, and the teacher went on about how she brought a pencil to school every day. Her kids bring a pencil to school every day. And if his mother can't give him a pencil to school every day, then he doesn't need to sit up there with the rest of the kids. I went to the vice principal, and I said to the vice principal, I said, excuse me. Like I said, the story still kind of gets to me. I said, excuse me. I said, is there any way that I can have a pencil? There were 4 kids in the classroom that said that they needed a pencil to do their work. I said, I'll pay you for it, because some schools, the kids have to pay for a pencil. They have to pay 25 cents to get a pencil. I said, I'll pay you for it. I said, just tell me, how much it costs. He said, no, I'm going to give you 7 and I'll sharpen them for you, etc. And if you need any more, let me know. I went back to the classroom, and all 7 of those pencils were used. That little boy that was sitting in the back of the class, and this was a math class, the little boy that was sitting in the back of the class, he moved up with the other kids at the desk. And within 10 minutes, I'm saying 10 minutes max, he was teaching the other kids the lesson. Now, keep in mind, this kid was doing positive and negative integers in his head because he didn't have a pencil. So something like that, where the teacher's perception is, look, if you don't come to school with a pencil, then you and your parents are irresponsible, limits a child's potential to be their best.
Well, so maybe the teacher was mentally ill.
Yeah, I'm not
I do
even
think
cast
there's a
it.
problem
He has
with
a
that, too.
problem.
Yeah, that could have been. No, but Ms. Jones, one of the questions I was going to ask you really quickly, because I did look up some of the things that you've been involved in, and of course, I did see you when definitely Hakeem was in the town last year, and all in that space, meaning Hakeem Jeffries. But one of the things I was curious about is I do know that you have pointed out that annually 12 million people, that's a whole lot of folks, are misdiagnosed, and 40 to 50,000 are fatal misdiagnoses of the various illnesses, and it seems like certain communities have a higher rate than others. And I was just wondering, have we become so much of a drug culture and too quick to the draw? Because I know that for years I've heard some of my friends, I don't have any kids of my own, but I've heard several of my friends that do have kids that talk about their kids being placed on Ritalin, and I don't know a kid yet that isn't hyper, so I sometimes wonder if we're not overly medicating with Ritalin as just one form of the drugs that we use for our kids. But I was just wondering your thoughts around that.
Ooh, yes, you're exactly right. The only thing is I would say 40 to 80,000 are actually fatal. Is 7 to 12 million are misdiagnosed. And so I used to work in a research location. I can't disclose what it is, but at that particular research facility, what they would do is they knew the challenges of the drugs. They knew the side effects of the drugs. Like for instance, one of the drugs, risperidone, there's a major lawsuit out there. There's a J&J product. If in risperdal, if you give this to young men, it actually can cause them to have gynecomastia, which is basically lactating breast. Which sometimes has to be resolved through mastectomy. So what would happen at this particular facility is all they wanted to do was they wanted to keep testing to find out at what particular point would the chances of gynecomastia be reduced. So now you're jeopardizing all these kids by continuously putting this drug into them for research to make sure that the drug company is not completely at fault. I've talked to so many individuals who, once again, yes, you know what, they're looking at the social behavior. You know, I've worked with autism for quite some time. They're looking at the social behavior versus looking at the core cause of certain challenges. My Facebook page, Beyond My Expectations, talks about the core challenges of diagnosis. And when when I started working with autism, and this I'll try to make this story as short as possible, but this is going to be very, very powerful if you're ready for it. When I started working with autism, I had Lyme's disease and I was pregnant with my youngest son. And the doctor told me that he thought my son might be born with autism and I needed to have a have sonogram done. So I had a sonogram and he was actually encouraging me to abort my youngest son. And so I had a sonogram and I said, no, abortion is not an option. And they said, the brain stems are fine. And I said, explain autism to me because I'm not really understanding it. They said, basically you have brain stems that control 5 areas: fine motor, gross motor, cognition, audio and visual, right? And basically if any of those 5 are stunted, like they're not fully extended, then that could lead to a adverse social behavior, right? Because you're overcompensating for that area that's not fully extended. When 3 of those areas are shortened, that's what they call autism, right? So basically we were checking to make sure that my son's 5 brain stems were growing properly, and they were growing properly. So with that being said, I always began to check for neuroinflammation. I've been advocating since 2010 to check for neuroinflammation. Shortly after all my advocacy, all my work, etc., Dr. Joseph Piven at UNC said, all cases of individuals with autism have what? Neuroinflammation. And I stated that basically when you have neuroinflammation, that could be physical trauma, emotional trauma that causes it. It could be genetics, etc. The thing that corrects that is what is called a plasma infusion, like your IgA, IgM, IgG levels, your autoimmune system, boosting that. So if you boost that, that would actually, once again, increase the ability or the room for those 5 brain stems to extend, and also switch the adverse social behaviors you're seeing, because the central nervous system's overworked when those are shortened, and when those are shortened, basically that's when you see the adverse social behaviors. About a week or two ago, there was an article from UNC stating that kids with severe mental health challenges have a decreased level of IgA, right? That's once again the autoimmune system. That's actually where that works with your sinuses, et cetera. It's your first line of defense. It's usually passed down from your mom, et cetera, but not all kids are born with it. I'm saying all that to say that for the longest time, since 1999, I found out that a lot of these mental health conditions are actually tied to your hemoglobin. Basically, where's your blood plasma? Where's your autoimmune system? So instead of addressing the core, which is your autoimmune system, what happens is we take pills. We take pills for the social behavior that we see as a result of a deficit in our own autoimmune system. So do I think there is an overuse of drugs? Yes. I think that if you start to do the research and understand basically that the core of a lot of these social behaviors is an overworked central nervous system, the brain, the spine, trying to combat trauma, inflammation, infection, etc., then yes, then we would do more of the hemoglobin. So basically, there is a hemoglobin company, an IVIG company in Smithfield, Johnston County. I can't remember, one of those. It's called Grifols. Grifols is now moving to Canada because of the increased demand in Canada, but not necessarily the increased demand in the US. So they're building this mega facility. If you look at the reports from Australia and the UK and the rest, they are doing tons of work with IVIG and blood infusion or plasma infusion to address the core of mental health challenges. But keep in mind, in the US, we are going in a lot of areas, we're going in the reverse direction. And once again, our mental health challenges are increasing.
You know, Ms. Jones, really quickly, what is your thoughts? Because I know one of the things we talk about here on the network is the state of the education system and all in that space. And I was just wondering, some people, and I'm guilty because I actually work for one of the companies of meaning a assessment company, but how much do you feel part of the problem with our mental health is that we are teaching to the test, or having folks teach to the test and doing a lot of that kind of work? So I was just wondering your thoughts about the state of the education system as you did work there, and are too many of our teachers teaching to the test?
I think when you have a 60% teacher vacancy, you are putting Band-Aids on a system. So if the one Band-Aid of continuity is to teach to the test, I can understand why people fall back on that. Because you got to have some kind of plan. You got to have some kind of plan in place. So I think a part of it is the teacher vacancy and the teacher burnout. So we have new teachers leaving the profession. I think it's 55% of new teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years of teaching. So if we have that kind of exodus and we have that kind of burnout and we have those kinds of vacancies, there's got to be a universal Band-Aid. But remember, it's a Band-Aid. It's not the solution, the permanent solution. And I think that universal Band-Aid is just teaching to the test, just passing the time.
Do you know why the teachers are leaving so early?
Well, the number one reason about 3 years ago, which I saw on one of the on the NC education program, was student readiness. And that was why I started teaching, believe it or not, started teaching in the school system, is that teachers are saying that they're coming in, they're preparing the lessons, et cetera, but when they get to schools, the students are not ready to learn. And once again, like I said, I challenge that, because once again, if I was able to engage my students, like I would go in, I would be teaching math, right? I would be a substitute teacher for math. But my kids would come in with their science work saying, hey, look, you know what, Ms. Jones, I'm in science right now and I'm not getting it. Can you help me get this science? Help me understand this science assignment. Because the teaching methods are so rigid. And I think that rigidity comes in with burnout. Like if you're burnt out, you don't have the time to think creatively. I said, They're talking about continuously doing these different after school programs for kids, et cetera, et cetera. We need in-school programs. We need in-school programs, because if I'm in school from 8 to 2 and I'm burnt out because I didn't get anything, the last thing I want to do is spend, 3 to 6 going over that same exact stuff. Do you know what I mean? Now I want to be a kid and I want to have fun. So if there are more in-school supports.
No, I get that. I agree with that. When I was in school, like in high school, I participated in a tutorial program where students who were strong in one subject would tutor other students in that subject, and after hours, not teachers, but fellow students. And because teachers just don't have the time.
But
Is
speaking
that
of
something
that,
that they're not doing?
Well, what my book does, Forward It Is Tangible, actually teaches children their best method for obtaining, retaining, and applying information. So even if you have another student there and the person who's receiving the information doesn't understand the way that they learn, they can be teaching and get frustrated because the kid is not grasping it. So I think we have to go back to just the basics of how do I learn? How do I process?
Each student is different.
Do I need to
I got it.
Right. Do I need to write notes? Do I need to use a tape recorder?
Kelly, just out of curiosity, because I know that, there was that incident that happened in Chicago recently, and I know that sometimes folks are wondering, you mentioned it, kind of alluded to it, but do you think that either here in North Carolina or around the nation, and I would even argue around the globe, that there is enough conversation about making sure that kids have activities even after school that are engaging? Because that's part of what I heard the narrative was in Chicago, and I'm not saying that was all of the narrative, but that some of those kids were trying to take over that park that then became that incident of violence and looting and everything, because they were trying to find something to do, because in that big city of Chicago, apparently there's not enough activities that are geared toward the teenagers and everything. And you came from the New Jersey area, and now I've lived in Wake County. Do you think that there is enough after school activities that are actually encouraging the kids to get involved, or is that something that we need to pay more attention to as a nation, and definitely even as a world citizen?
No, there are not enough activities, not enough constructive activities. So, you can always find something to get into, but constructive activities that are going to give them life skills, no. Once again, I go back to when I was substitute teaching, and this happened in a lot of the schools that I taught in. You could go in the gym class, right? Then the gym class could have, 200 kids, main gym, group gym, whatever, all the gym teachers are in there, et cetera. And you would find maybe 20, 25 kids playing basketball. And the rest of the kids are sitting on the side, doing their, social media and that kind of stuff. So now you've got 25 that are advancing physically, and that's where you get your endorphins from. That's where, you get a lot of the oomph to move forward and cognitive processing. But then remember, 150 kids, or the rest of the kids, were not getting it. So if they're not getting it in school where we used to get it, what do they do when they leave school? You can't expect me to want to run, jump, play, go to a trampoline park and do all the rest if I never built the platform or the foundation to do it. So I think it's twofold. I think it's one, incorporating something in schools. Once again, remember I told you that there needs to be more supports in school that affirm individuals and show them what they can do. And then after you do that affirmation in school, then you have an opportunity to do more outside. Think about this. When I was there when Noah built the ark, so I'm a little bit older than you guys, but think about this. When you were growing up, you had constant affirmation of who you were. So your mom would say, like my mom would say, yeah, Kelly talks a lot, but she'll get it done. I was kind of smart. My teacher would say, yeah, Kelly talks a lot, but she's one of the smartest kids in class. My neighbors would say, yeah, Kelly talks a lot. She's going to be a news reporter, or attorney. So I understood my over communication could be a challenge, but it was a positive challenge, right? Right? They're giving me career aspirations. Today, if you have a child talks a lot, they're told, you're disruptive. You need to sit down. We're going to get a psychological review. We're going to get this, we're going to get that. So basically, if you're getting all these negative things in school, all these negative reinforcements about your unique strengths and gifts, when you leave school, right, you're now limited in the things that you can do socially because you're told about all the things that you can't do.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry. Did you run across kids that was frowned upon to be academic excellence, or it was acting white? So I see that in the news with the media. That term, acting white.
Well, I act white, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What
no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I act very, very black. But the thing is that there are people who are going to always label someone who's different.
Right.
So, if you are something that I don't completely understand, in order for me to process and move forward and not spend a whole lot of time figuring out who you are, I have to give you a label. Not me. My parents didn't raise me that way, but I'm just saying.
And it's a disservice to the kids.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of disservice to the kids in our education system. I had a very brief time teaching in elementary, middle school, and high school chess. Okay. And I actually took a school in Seattle that just random kids and made them national speed chess champions within about 3 years. Here was the problem. The problem wasn't chess. The problem with the kids. Kids loved it. Elementary kids grow to it. The problem was the school administration. Okay, first of all, we had a very supportive school administration. They let me go in and do this stuff. Then these two people got hired. They were in Shoreline down to Seattle. A new administrator came in. First thing the new administrator came in and said, "Are you a pedophile?" And I had no idea what she was about. Okay. And then
she said your butts.
Okay. And then I continued, teaching the kids how to play chess. They all loved it. And then she came back again. "Well, I'm still not sure you're a pedophile." And I'm sitting there going, I don't need this job. I mean, I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law for 38 years. I have a doctorate degree, 2 masters, member of many bar associations, licensed to practice for the Supreme Court. And if I've got people jumping up and saying you're a pedophile, I could lose all my licenses, even if I'm not. So I said, "I tell you what you can do with your job. Goodbye." And I left. And the program went down the toilet because of the administrators. Then I read some studies on administrators. The last 10 years, 75%, and go check North Carolina, all the money that you approved to go into education went to hire more administrators, not teachers and not good teachers. And then we go on further because my wife wanted to teach. The NEA, the National Education Association, has such a stronghold on it. They make you go through this tremendous, crazy process for certification that they basically can't teach. Like me and Dan, we both hold doctorate degrees. We couldn't teach in high school or middle school because we're not, quote, certified by their crazy certifications.
I'm a substitute teacher. I can teach.
Well, yeah, but you can be substitute, but I'm not sure if you can be a full-time teacher, Dan, unless you go through their crazy certification.
Well, that's right. But I have a doctorate in education as well.
It's state by state. Yeah, and also you have a doctorate in education. But basically, after that experience, I was pro-charter schools. I was going, I cannot deal with these crazy administrators that come through the public school system. And
well, it's the Democrats that are doing this. You know that, right? It's the Democrats that are doing this.
Hold on a second. I do have a question for Kelly.
Because you're doing a disservice to all. And one of the problems is this, and Sasha knows.
Yes, Kelly, it is a Democrat.
One of the problems is this, and I'll tell you this. The reason the teachers don't teach chess in the schools, they don't know how to play worth a darn. The reason they don't teach financial literacy in the school is because
they don't know it.
They're stupid. And if you go look at the IQ list, the bottom 5% are people who are in education. Sorry, Dan. I know you have a doctorate.
That's why they gravitate to education.
Yeah.
One of the things I was curious about.
I also have a law degree in math.
Dumb and Dumber. Trying to teach our bloody kids.
Hold on a second. I do have a quick question for Kelly that you just raised and everything.
Anyway,
what is your thoughts around charter schools? Because I have heard a lot of people that have been very supportive of charter schools. I do know that a North Carolina native, Howard Fuller, is a big proponent of charter schools and all in that space, but I was just wondering your thoughts on charter schools and if you think that that is an option that we should look more at, because I know there's some good charter schools even here in Durham, because I think Durham Nativity is a charter school, and I think that St. Cia is a charter school, and there are a couple of others that I can name as well. But I was just wondering your thoughts on the charter school education.
I love charter school. I love charter school. I love. I mean, some public schools are good too. I mean, I think you have to find the environment that is going to understand the kids and make sure that they have the self-affirmation that they need to move forward. I had a quick story about the administration when you were giving that story, because it is. So I taught at one school. I think it was like a 3-month assignment. The teacher had gone out on maternity leave. And what happened was there were kids in the class that were AP math and kids that were remedial in math. And so this was an eighth grade class. And so it was very crucial because the kids had substitute teachers back and forth for about a month, right? It was a while. And they had just lost a lot of ground. So what happened was I came in and I said, look, I'll work with the kids. And I had the ones that were remedial, excited, engaged, motivated. Every day I bring granola bars and fruit chews and something that's like non-diabetic, so that kids who obviously are kids who do not have, not obviously, who may not have a meal at home, have an opportunity to have an additional snack during the day, etc. Right? So I'm teaching the kids. And I can help them get to where they need to be. Mm-hmm. So I go to the principal and I say, hey, look, you know what? I said, these kids really need help. I said, is there any way? I've already checked with the bus system. They can get the bus afterwards. I had the kids check with their parents to see if they would be okay with taking a later bus. I already talked with another teacher. She said, bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the kids after school. I'm willing to do that, or I'm willing to give you the money to make the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, whatever works. I said, but I need to do this after school. And the principal said to me, they said, no, you need to do this during lunch. I said, do you understand? Kids come to me during my lunch, during my break. I said, I need a little bit of time for myself to process. So I will be more equipped to do this after school than to do this during school in the cafeteria in lunch where everybody's screaming in the background, right? And the principal's response, or vice principal, whatever it was, response was no. And I'm like, now, wait a minute. I've gone through every single channel. I got the teachers, the bus, the kids, everybody on board. I've got these AP kids, students that are about to lose their AP status. I'm willing to give up my time after work, and you're going to tell me no?
Yeah.
And it just
shouldn't have asked
away. Huh?
You shouldn't have got permission.
Well, you know what? That's why I stayed a substitute teacher, because as a substitute teacher, I could do things that I wasn't able to do as a teacher. So as a substitute teacher, I was able to go work with Panera Bread and make sure that my students had free bagels, when they went home on Friday, so they had something to eat on the weekend.
It's always
you remind me now of another horror story I had with Kellogg Middle School in Seattle, Washington. So I had the kids all lined up to go play in the national middle school tournament. And then they came to me and they said, well, you can't play as Kellogg Middle School. Why not? Well, you didn't fill out this form. What form? a form that you didn't fill out. And then I went to the school board and they said, oh, yeah, go ahead and fill out the form and we'll get it done. So I filled out the form. And then she said, this is an administrator. It's too late. You can't play as Kellogg Middle School. And I said, look, here's the deal. I'm going to go to, I forgot what city, it was Kansas City or some whatever school. I'm taking the kids and we're going to play as Kellogg Middle School. If you want to sue me, I'm an attorney. We'll spend a lot of time in court discussing this. So I did is I took the kids, we played as Kellogg Middle School, and I went to the administrator. But what it shows is the attitude that these people have that are the school administrators. And this is Kellogg Middle School, Seattle, Washington.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
What else do they have in their life?
They hate children development. They hate kids probably, and they all need to be fired.
Nick and Dan, just really quickly, one thing I was going to ask Kelly.
Dan has something, Lee. Let's bring Dan in. He has a doctorate in education. What are they teaching?
Well, here's the problem. What else are you going to do but exercise your authority? They haven't got anything else in their life to do but to make your life miserable. They're really
Dean, isn't it about the students? Don't the students come first?
Yeah,
No.
you would
No,
think.
they don't.
But-
You know,
Look
I
around
think
the
so, but-
I
universities
actually
at the
went.
universities. They're the same way. But for these pesky students, we'd have a great life.
Yeah,
It's the,
no,
it's the
these
attitude of
administrators
entitlement and everything
are
else that these
horrible.
teachers
This
and
isn't Raleigh,
everybody.
this is Seattle, Washington.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the administrators particularly, right? They've fought and clawed their way up into administration. They get the biggest dollars, and then they have this power thing, right? Now, my brother happens to be a school principal. He's not that way. He's beloved to the kids, gives them a high five when he come into class and does all that stuff every morning. And he's been on television for being the great guy he is. But that's a rare bird, and it's because of the pressure and the dichotomy in our society and the anger and the mental health issues even these crazy administrators have, right, Kelly? They've got
Dan, this is your brother?
huh?
Yeah,
This is your brother or brother-in-law?
Nice guy.
My brother, he's got a doctor, he's got an ed specialist degree, he's a principal in a school in Idaho.
What would he say about school vouchers?
Republican.
He'd be okay.
Kelly, you have any thoughts on that?
Is he a Republican? Yeah, he's a Republican.
Yeah. Any thoughts on
He was,
school
he was
vouchers?
born in
That's a good
Idaho. He's
question.
a Republican, right? Because we all don't have mental health issues that the Democrats seem to have. I don't know.
Kelly, any thoughts on school vouchers and everything?
Yeah, it's a Democratic problem.
Wait, say it one more time, what?
On school vouchers, Lee had brought up the notion of school vouchers. So, do you have any thoughts on the thoughts around school vouchers and whether that's something that you think should be used or not?
The only thing about the school vouchers is I think that some kids are going to miss out on an opportunity. And I think if we don't do, how can I put it? It's going to create a greater imbalance, in my belief, and I could be wrong. It will create a greater imbalance. And the goal is to have more people functioning at the best level that they can function at, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah,
we
the
created
public
a more
schools are
imbalance.
broken. The
Huh?
public schools are broken.
They've been broken.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what
The voucher
newsflash is.
system
to you.
allows people to
And
shop
what
and
about the
get better
trade
education
schools?
for
I
their
mean,
kids.
it's like we don't teach people how to become electricians,
Well, there
plumbers.
was a time.
Everybody's into
that-
bloody math. Who cares about
There was a time that trades were even popular
know.
in the primary school systems, like 1 through 12, and maybe not 1 through 12, but definitely junior high and high school. And I don't know what Kelly has observed, but it does seem like a lot of the trades have been taken out of our school system, and I think that is a mistake. But what is your thoughts,
is.
Kelly?
Big
Is that something
mistake.
that we are seeing too much of?
Yeah.
Well, they are taking the trades out of school, but I will say that there are a lot of supplemental programs that are coming along that are trying to put a trades entrepreneurship or trades apprenticeship. There we want to say trades apprenticeship program in place. So I am on the Business Alliance for Wake Young Men's Leadership Academy, and that's one of the schools. And I know several schools in Johnson County are working with particular trades to see what they can do to expand the students' career options. But I just want to go back to that voucher thing one more time. What I was saying is that the challenge is if everyone can get into the appropriate program, we still wind up with that disparity. There's a ratio looking at who has doesn't. When we look at when I was growing up, what I was saying earlier is when I was growing up, my world was very small. Right now, people are not looking at their neighbors and their and their school to get a feel for who they are. They're looking at the world. They're looking at things globally. A voucher program where my next door neighbor has something that I don't have, or there's greater disparity within a community, I think that that's going to lead to more frustration. What I saw in schools.
Yeah,
And that's
crabs
why I
in the
think
can,
I
right?
had so much success as a substitute teacher is because I would exactly crabs in a barrel.
Right.
I would do my best to create parity
That's what
in
Democrats
the
are.
classroom. So you know what? Johnny might be really good at writing on the board. Susan might be really
Biden.
good at telling a story. Bobby might be really good at picking up pencils, whatever it is. But, making sure that everybody knows that they have something that adds value. And I think once again, when you start to do too much differentiation within a neighborhood or within a locale, then people see it, it's in their face.
Okay.
If it's global,
Okay,
it's on
Kelly,
TV,
but-
you can kind of start to dismiss it.
I
I'm
agree
sorry.
with you, Kelly, but the problem is you're a rare bird. If all
But speaking of-
teachers,
but speaking-
if all
but speaking of
teachers
being-
were like you, if all teachers were like you and had your philosophy, we wouldn't have the problem we have. But we have the problem we have because all teachers are not like you. And the problem is that the public schools are a cesspool of intellectual dereliction, and the people who are they hang on because the system protects them. This is why you need charter schools. This is why you need private
Right.
schools. So people that want to excel in education and love kids can get together and teach kids who want to learn and parents who want to support them to learn. It's not going to hurt the public schools. They'll still have the same teachers and the same students that parents don't care to send them to private schools. It's always going to be a disparity no matter what you do. The problem is right now that the public schools are teaching to the lowest common denominator, and it's making us underperform in the world in math, sciences, and everything else because we do not reward meritocracy anymore. Now, the other thing they don't do, and I remember when I was public schools, and that's been a very long time ago because I'm a senior citizen, we didn't get to take the tests over and over and over again until we got A's on it. We got one shot at the test, and that was freaking it. You were stuck with the grade you earned the first time. Now, the schools, they get to take the test as many times as they want and get their grade up if they really want to get their grade up. Now, I'm not necessarily against that if it means this child is learning and they're growing, but it's an entirely different world than it was when we were kids. When I was a kid, not
No, I hear
well,
what you're
most
saying.
of me because
No, I hear what you're saying.
also,
I did have a
there's
quick question. I know we still got
emphasis
another.
on standardized testing. Okay, if you look at standardized testing, and I'm talking about the SATs, the GREs, the GMATs, the LSATs, the MedCats, they're all designed,
NMOUSE. Yeah.
okay, they're all designed out of ETS out of Princeton, New Jersey, where Lee is. All
It's
right.
one of the companies. They're
People
not the only
that
ones
do
who designed
well,
it.
the people that
Yeah,
do well
Lee.
on these tests are people that are trained from childhood almost to study over and over and over again the test. Okay.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, they get these big scores. The random person who just walks in and is told by the teacher, oh, you don't study for the test, just go ahead and take it.
Oh, you got to study
Get
for it.
those scores ever. All right. It's like chess playing, which I told Sasha. If you're good at chess, it's because you worked at it since you're a little kid. If you graduate from high school, now you say you want to be good at chess, forget it. It's the same thing with the ETS and the SATs. So the people in the know will actually do like I did with my kids. I say, look, if you want to ace this test, you've got to start working now, take years to do it, and then you ace the test. So now you have a whole group of people that are in the know that play this game with these standardized tests that do well, and
They're
everybody
mostly rich kids. Rich
I want to say two things. One, I want to say two things. One, I was that kid that took the standardized test, that took the SAT with no practice, and the first time out of all my friends broke 1,000. I got 1,080 first time.
Mhm.
And so back in the day, breaking 1,000 was huge, and that was no prep. So people studying for the test, I think that I think sometimes people just have it and some people don't. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes people can innately with the test. They study. But then the other thing that I want to say, Dan, which I wanted to address, which I think is a big misperception, is teachers do not teach to the child who is struggling the most, the challenge the most.
Yeah, I know they don't.
What happens is they teach kind of mid-level and up, and those kids that are struggling, they do enough to give them a C to pass them to get to the next grade. So what happens is these kids graduate and they don't have a freaking clue of what's going on.
Yeah,
and
they're left behind.
Now they're in the real world and they're pissed and they have to survive. So that's where we see the challenges out here. And that's where we see disgruntled kids, because guess what? They're not teaching to the lowest level. What they're teaching is mid-level and up. And those lowest level, the lower level kids, once again, they're just passed along.
Well, the
So
system.
if we wanted,
But also they're not teaching for the jobs. I mean, the thing is, I hate to say it, you can know
Kids,
all you want to about
kids
vectors.
that are
That's
excelling.
not going to get you a job. I graduate. Hey, I'm really good at vectors. So what? You know, it's really very limiting to only certain jobs, and we overemphasize math. I'm sorry. I mean, certain level it's good to know, but certain level
We shouldn't be mainstreaming everybody.
well,
no,
well,
you should be
no, you shouldn't
mainstreaming
be
everybody, but I go back
everybody.
to that teaching approach. So
I'd
remember, I
rather
told
know
you,
how electric.
Europe,
I
they
said-
don't mainstream everybody.
But-
In
but-
Europe, they divide them into different groups according to their abilities.
But
Some
Doc,
people end
listen,
up going to
listen.
the
Their interests.
Doc,
What are they
listen, I have a
interested
great
in?
example for you. I'm a mother of 3 kids. My oldest daughter, I homeschooled my kids for 13 years. My oldest child, she began college
That's
at
smart.
UNC at age 14.
Yeah.
Okay. When she was 14, we gave her the test, the admissions test at Central Carolina Community College, and she scored the highest level reading, second highest level math. My son, my middle son, is extremely smart too. And so in first grade, he was reading at a 9th grade level, comprehending high second grade, 4th, 5th grade math, right? This was by the school psychologist, the test that she gave. So one day we were going, and I said to my son, Jay, I said, Jay, go get your shirt. And he went to the door and stood at the door. And I was like, Jay, we're going to go to church. Go get your shirt, right? He's he's a visual learner. He's not an audio, right? He has auditory processing delay. So when we say things, sometimes he'll hear it a few minutes later. So I said,
Right. My
Jay,
daughter's that way.
I said, Jay, what did mommy just say? And he took we had this Magna Doodle that he would use. And he took his Magna Doodle and he wrote CHURCH, right? So I was saying, Jay, go get your shirt, right? He heard Jay, go church. So he went to the door, stood at the door, and waited for us to go to church, whereas I wanted him to get the shirt. So I'm quite sure that my child is not the only child who has auditory processing delay and certain things are missed. If you give Jay something and you write it all out, he will follow it to the T, right? But
Yeah, I
if
have an
you
autistic
something-
daughter who's 16. I understand.
But if you tell him something, it's more of a challenge. So that's why I said, if he's in a classroom where the teacher's talking the whole time, he's going to be disengaged because he's not getting it. So
Hey,
if we
Kelly.
take more time to understand the strengths of individuals,
No,
And
I
how
definitely agree with you.
Yep, I
then we-
agree.
No, I
Yep.
definitely agree with you,
Then we-
Kelly. Just really quickly, because I know we're winding down. It's been a
I'm sorry.
fascinating conversation.
Well, nice.
Enjoyed the conversation.
Good
It was a
job.
much good conversation. But I've got to teach you about 2 things because I want to hear your answers, and I know Dan's going to love me for answering both of these questions. But one, Dan might be surprised to know because you mentioned UNC several times, but you also went to a very conservative college to get your master's and everything. So I just wondered if you could share some of your thoughts around Liberty, because you did go to Liberty University, which most people know for Jerry Falwell, and that is where you actually went to college and everything. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about maybe your thoughts around that particular very church-based education, because when I think of Jerry Falwell and Liberty, that's what I usually think of and everything. But I was just wondering your thoughts around that, and then I've got a quick political question to ask you as well. And I know we only got a few minutes, so we can get some short answers. And Dan, don't chime in because I know you'll try to chime in.
I don't know if I will or not.
Yeah, so I have not finished my master's degree in education at Liberty University, but I went online and I did, because I'm an oral communicator, verbal, audio, I did a lot of conversing with my professors. And the funniest thing is the conservatism even shows in just working with my professors. So I could hear their responses as we were talking about education and the expectations of students. So it was very, how can I put it? There was a great emphasis on students have the students have the onus to make sure that they succeed. Like they have the onus to bring their pencils. They have the onus to do this. But one of the things that was really interesting is in my reading, not through that particular program, but in my reading, I found that basically a lot of parents of kids with learning disabilities may not have excelled in school. So the reason why they don't go to the IEP meetings is because they don't want to go to these meetings and be embarrassed with big words and things that they don't understand. So what I found missing was the fact of, there needs to be more opportunities to incorporate parents versus just saying there's an onus of the students to excel. So
I appreciate that. Now, the other question I was going to ask, and like I said, this could probably take a whole another show and everything. So hopefully you will return, Kelly, and everything. But we are getting ready to go. I know that there are some fierce debates around the politics. Josh Stein is running against the lieutenant governor here in North Carolina, and there's a bunch of other things that are going on, and they're trying to figure out what direction the Democrats should take. Some people are saying pay attention to the economy and everything. And I do know that you are a campaign strategist as well. So what advice do you think the Democratic Party needs to take as they get ready to prepare for this battle of elections for the 2024 national and statewide elections?
Okay, a couple of things. One, simplify the message. So give me 3-5 words, give me a message, and keep continuity with that. Number two, everybody likes a crowd and synergy. So start building your crowd, start building your synergy. And then number three, go young. I was in DC one time and I went to an event and I was going to see the fireworks, and a Trump event had just ended. And what I found was really interesting is there were these two kids, one was 14, one was 16, and they were standing in front of Trump Towers wanting to take a picture. And I said to the mom, I said, hey, look, I'll take a picture of the three of you. And the mom was like, no, I hate Trump. I'm not going to take the picture. This is for my sons. Now think about it. Trump has two voters, 14 and 16 years old, that are going to be able to vote in the next election, right? This was when he was in office. But he had two voters that would potentially be able to vote in the next election. Are we doing enough to build voters that are going to vote in the next election? Are we doing enough to build these young kids with a mindset of what the Democrats are talking about? Because if we simplify the message, it will be easier so they can go home and talk about it at the dinner table, so they can ask questions. I don't think the Democrats are doing that. I think the Republicans are spot on. I think that they have a lot of marketing savvy and I think that they have a strong platform. Just putting a young person involved is not necessarily going to build the relational stuff that we need, because we need to get some stagnant older people involved, and we also need to make sure that we're getting younger people involved. So I think, one, we need to go young. Get into those elementary schools, get into those middle schools, start the conversations. Once again, like I said, we need to create synergy, and we can create that with the youth. And then thirdly, we need to simplify the message, because people we've won elections, but they're sleeping, and they're sleeping because it's overwhelming. So simplify it.
I have a question. Hello, Ms. Jones. I have a question to you. You can be the most talented and great marketeer, but if your product is grossly deficient, how your marketing skills will help you to push product which is grossly deficient? I'm talking about the present day Republican Party.
Okay. I think it's all relationships. So I'll tell you, I promise I'll try to make this short. I used to work in the hotel industry, and I worked for Hyatt, and our hotel was 11 years old. It was in Princeton, and the Marriott down the street had a brand new, had a discotheque. It was a Tanger shopping outlet. And when I got there, the Marriott was doing like 98% occupancy, and the Hyatt was doing like 70-something% occupancy. By the end of the third year, by the time I left, we were doing 98%. The Hyatt, which was 11 years old in need of a renovation, was doing 98% occupancy, and the Marriott was doing 94% occupancy. And that was all because we had increased our transient business, which is individual travelers coming in and out. And the way that we did that, or the way that I was able to do that, I was responsible for transient sales, was to get the staff energized, motivated. They were pumped about the product. They gave great service. People were coming back because it was a family environment. It was communication. I want to go back to the Hyatt because I want to see my friend at the front desk. I want to go back to the Hyatt because, we're going to talk about this. We are not building relationships in the Democratic Party. We're building adversarial stuff. Don't do this. The Republicans are bad. Stop talking about that. Let's build the family. What can we do collaboratively to succeed?
That makes sense. Last question, just really quickly, and then Sasha may have a follow-up. We can go a few minutes over. But how important do you think it is? Because I know one of the other things that you were involved with is what the folks call the Divine Nine. And I know that Kamala is part of one of that Divine Nine too, which is the sororities and the fraternities within the African American community. How important do you think that that block is going to be this time? And are you doing any work with them around this election also?
All off the chain. It's top down. So top down, if our leaders say, look, don't get involved, don't do this, don't do that, we can't do anything. Our hands are tied. So imagine going to one central person and now engaging thousands of people. So I think it's very essential that you get in front of the Divine Nine. I was working or affiliated with a person, and the Delta Sigma Theta had their national president come in, and we had asked an elected official to attend this event where the national, please forgive me, where our national president was, send a video, send a proclamation, do anything. And the candidate refused. It happened with Phi Beta Sigma, happened with Kappa Alpha Psi, several other organizations. They don't forget. They don't forget. So you can lose thousands or you can gain thousands by being present.
That makes a lot of sense and everything. Sasha or Lee, if you had any other last minute questions, we can take one.
No, I just want to make one comment. Kelly, I love your energy, your attitude. It's amazing and refreshing.
Thank you.
And your smile.
Thank you.
Same here. So if there's no other questions, we're getting ready to get on out of here. Hopefully we'll have Kelly come back on some future episodes as well. Oh, by the way, I do have to just ask really quickly, how important has podcasting been to you as well? Because I do know that you are a leading podcaster. I mean, I don't know any of us here on the network that have 40,000 downloads, but apparently you got like those kind of numbers. And I'm trying to figure out how we at Pod TV can get those kind of numbers as well. So how has it been being a successful podcaster? And what advice do you give to other podcasters and live streamers?
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's so rewarding. We're volunteer podcasters, my colleague and I. She's a psychologist. But I think we just have to start talking. When we talk, it provides healing. It provides insight. It provides inspiration. I mean, I've had my guests thank me over and over again. They've further understood the complexity of their conditions being on the podcast. So it's very rewarding knowing that you are able to just shed light, give hope. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep saying that I would do podcasts forever for free, but this is just, like I said, it's so the name of our podcast, just FYI, is Moving Forward Podcast, Stories of Triumph, and we deal with neural inflammation. So how many people want to talk about brain inflammation? That's not like, a dinner table topic. But what we do is we have candid conversations, some humor, etc., about a very, very serious condition. And at the end, we provide hope. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for that. And also, listen, before I leave, don't forget, Forward, it is tangible. It will be on the shelf. It will be on Kindle. May 1, it is essential for young adults. One of my colleagues contacted me and said, hey, Kelly, you know what? I want to buy this for my grandson. I think this will be great. He's going to college. I would love for him to read it during the summer. He said, but I'm going to read it too. I said, you got it. That's it. I said, it's like, think about Harry Potter, think about Disney World. It's designed for the youngest of youngest audiences to be able to reach it, retain it, process it, etc. But it has a stance of an older audience. So it's designed for everybody. We just want to make sure that young adults don't miss out on this nugget when we have such a high opportunity for improvement, and understanding of a strengths-based approach with young adults right now. And it's crucial that we do this before the summer comes, because during the summer, they're going to have a lot of free time. And think about those kids that don't have bandwidth. They can no longer play with their games. Think about the kids who are not going to have teachers. They're not going to have instruction. They're going to have a lot of free time. There's more looting that's occurring right now. There's a high rate of opioid abuse. There's a whole lot of things that can happen negatively when people don't understand their value, their worth, their purpose, and just the opportunity to make a positive impact. And that's what this book does.
Well, we definitely want people to go out and get that book. Lee might be getting his copy very shortly.
It was a pleasure
all
meeting
in
you,
that
Kelly.
spaces. So definitely he might be getting that copy, and who knows, we might find a way to get Lee 50,000 downloads, even though that might exceed Kelly's 40,000 downloads and all of that space. But we're going to see what we can do to get going on some more
From
downloads.
your mouth to
as well.
God's ears. Thank you, Mark.
No problem. So we're going to get ready to get out of here. I know we've got Barbara Smith at the 12 o'clock hour. And of course, she'll be bringing some messages around business and around coaching and a number of other things.
Y'all have a wonderful day.
Coco
God
coming
bless.
that way at 6 o'clock. And I think she's got a gospel singer coming her way, since I just got her lineup and all in that space. And so we've got some more great shows coming your way for the rest of this afternoon and evening. So definitely stay tuned to Pod TV at podtv.tv. And you can also find it on LinkedIn, Roku, and a number of other outlets as well. But right now, we're getting ready to get on out of here.